Hello. Yeah, I'm in a lecture. No, that's why I said, but you can write. Yeah.
Good morning, mom. Good morning, mom.
Hello? 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 ऑडियो नहीं आ रहा. One second.
Mama, sorry, mic section.
Hello? 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 Hello. Madam, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I am able to hear you. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, we have shared two screens. I hope you are able to see both the screens, ma'am.
Yeah, I have. I won't be able to share the screen now because you have
Yes,
posted
ma'am.
on the screen.
Once you want to, we will start sharing, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. So how are we starting? Like, what is you have earlier shared the minute to minute, so we are sticking to that only.
I think there's a small delay, ma'am.
Acha, acha, acha. So when will I have to be ready?
Maybe in 10-15 minutes more, ma'am, because the chief guest hasn't arrived yet.
Because I have we have our own training workshop for ILO, IWS. So I have to be present at 2 o'clock there. So 2 to 5.
Ma'am, till what time is it fine with you?
It is fine with 12 o'clock is fine. Up to 12 o'clock is fine.
Okay, ma'am. We'll line up definitely before
Because there
that.
we are organizers. So I have to again have a trial meeting and all that with ILO. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We'll ensure that we finish it before 12 o'clock, ma'am.
Yeah. Means my
Thank
session, if it is over by 12, that is fine. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, very wonderful.
Online only for me. The program is in person. Only for me it is on Zoom. હા હવે થઈ ગયો ફોન આવ્યો એટલે જ હલો
Welcome to all the of abusive relationships and prevention of domestic violence, organized by Women Empowerment Cell, RBVRR Women's College, sponsored by National Commission for Women. I would like to start the program with a quotation. A woman is a full circle. Within her is the power to create, nurture, and transform. So the personality we have today as a chief guest, Srimati Sunita Lakshma Reddy ma'am. Once again, I welcome ma'am on this occasion. I would like to welcome now Vice Principal ma'am, Dr. C. Kavita ma'am, onto the dais. I request Nikita, any second year students to present flower bouquet to ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. I request Chief Guest Sunita Lakshma Reddy ma'am to please occupy the seat on the dais. I request Nikita, a student of MDC second year, to present flower bouquet to Sunita Lakshma Reddy ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to welcome Dr. G. Akita Devi, ma'am, principal of the college, to come to the dais. I request Ms. Saya, SNZ, second year student, to present flower bouquet to ma'am. I would like to welcome Secretary from Correspondence. Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome Secretary cum Correspondent of the college, Professor G. Sudarshan Reddy sir, to the national webinar. And also I would like to welcome our resource person, Padmavati madam, and Vibhuti Patel ma'am. She has joined us online through online mode, and other delegates, faculty and students of our college, other colleges, as well as the parents of the students to this one-day national seminar on identification of abusive relationships and prevention of domestic violence. Now I would like to welcome our principal ma'am to address the gathering on this occasion. Thank you, Rekha. Good morning, all. I welcome Srimati Sunita Lakshma Reddy garu, Honorable Chairperson, Telangana State Commission for Women. Please the guest of today's seminar, Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting professor in Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Dr. Yarlagadda Padmavati, Advocate, High Court of Telangana, Professor G. Sudarshan Reddy garu, Secretary cum Correspondent, RBVRR Women's College, Dr. Kavita, Vice Principal of the College, Dr. Kasuna Salman, Convener of the Seminar, Dr. Shobana Sailendra, Psychologist, who is also speaker of today, faculty, colleagues, students, to National Commission for Women's Sponsored Seminar on Identification of Abusive Relationships and Prevention of Domestic Violence, which is organized in connection with Azadika Amrut Mahotsav to mark the 75 years of independence. On this occasion, I wish to take the opportunity to present a brief profile of our college madam. Our college was established in 1954 by Hyderabad Mahila Vidya Sangha, a non-profit education society. It is affiliated to Usmania University. The college was granted autonomous status for UG courses in 1989 by the UGC, and it was extended to PG courses from 2010 to 11. The college was selected as a College with Potential for Excellence by UGC in 2010-11 and continued the same in 2014. The college has been reaccredited by NAC in its fourth cycle. From humble beginnings, RBCRR Women's College has grown to a mammoth size with over 2,800 student college roles, providing hostel accommodation to more than 350 girls who range from rural and remote areas of Telangana. It is also probably the only college in India metro dedicated to women's education from poor family background. Presently, we are offering 17 programs at UG level and 5 programs at PG level. It is the first women's college to introduce MBA program under Matrimonial jurisdiction. It is the first college to introduce BSc with forensic science course at the UG level and MSc data science at PG level. The college introduced BSc data science value-added courses that meet the emerging needs of society. The college oath its existence to the foresight of Sir Rajanathu Venkatrama Reddy Garu, Uttala Hospital, Hyderabad State, Gurkula Ramakrishna Rao Garu, first Chief Minister of the Hospital, Hyderabad State, and Chairman of the Legislative Council of Andhra Pradesh, and K.V. Ranga Reddy Garu, former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, who were the pioneers in propagating women's education in the state. The college has the rare privilege to have the blessings of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, who laid the foundation stone of the college. Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, the first Vice President of India, inaugurated the college building. C.D. Deshmukh laid the foundation stone of the hospital building. Srimati Indira Gandhi, the former Union Minister for Information and Broadcasting, inaugurated the hospital building. The visit of the President of India, His Excellency Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, on 5th August 2005 to deliver the Golden Jubilee valedictory address is another landmark in the history of the college. His Excellency Dr. C.S. Vidyasagar Rao, Governor of Maharashtra, visited the college for diversity celebration. Her Excellency Dr. Samit Singh Soundarajan, Governor of Telangana State, awarded degrees to students during the academic year 2019-20 convocation. On this occasion, I like to speak about National Commission for Women. The National Commission for Women was set up as statutory body in January 1992 under the National Commission for Women Act 1990. To review the constitutional and legal safeguards for women, I will brief about mission and vision of the National Commission for Women. The mission is to strive towards enabling women to achieve equality and equal participation in all spheres of life by securing her due rights and entitlements through suitable policy formulation, legislative measures, effective enforcement of laws, implementation of schemes and policies, and devising strategies for solution of specific problems and situations arising out of discrimination against women. Vision. The Indian women secure in her home and outside, fully empowered to access all her rights and entitlements, with opportunity to contribute equally in all walks of life. The major functions of the Commission investigate and examine all matters relating to the safeguards provided for women under the Constitution and other laws. Review from time to time the existing provisions of the Constitution and other laws affecting women and recommend amendments thereto. Take up cases of violation of the provisions of the Constitution and of other laws relating to women with the appropriate authority. Look into complaints and take due notice of matters relating to deprivation of women's rights, non-implementation of laws enacted to provide protection to women and also to achieve the objective of equality and development. Non-compliance of policy decisions, guidelines, or instructions aimed at mitigating hardships and ensuring welfare and providing relief to women, and take up the issues arising out of such matters with appropriate authority. undertake promotional and educational research so as to suggest ways of ensuring due representation of women in all spheres and identify factors responsible for impeding their advancement, such as lack of access to housing and basic services, inadequate support services and technologies for reducing drudgery and occupational health hazards and for increasing their productivity. Participate and advise on planning process of socio-economic development of women. Evaluate the progress of the development of women under the union and educate. Inspect or cause to inspected jails, remand home, women's institution or other place of custody where women are kept as prisoners or otherwise and take up with the concerned authorities for remedial action if found necessary. Fund litigation involving issues affecting a large body of women. Make periodical reports to the government on any matter pertaining to women and in particular various difficulties under women toil. Any other matter which may be referred by central government. I congratulate Dr. Prasunna and her team for organizing this seminar. And I thank Dr. Bindu for her continuous support. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to invite Shobana Shalendra, ma'am, psychologist of RDGRR Women's College, to come on to the dais, ma'am. I request Manisha to present flower bouquet to ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I request all the dignitaries on the dais to join for the lighting of the lamp. Ma'am, please join for the lighting of the lamp. Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Sunita for the prayer song. Ya kundindu tushara jagana, ya supravastraniva, ya veena varadanda manditara, ya shveta padmasana, ya brahmachuta shankara, प्रभृति विदेवै सदा पूजिता सामान पातु सरस्वती भगवती निश्चेषजाड्यपः. Thank you. Thank you, Sunita. Now I would like to invite our Vice Principal Ma'am, Dr. C. Kavita Ma'am, to introduce our chief guest, Srimati Sunita Lakshma Reddy Ma'am, to our esteemed audience. Good morning, everyone. It is indeed an honor to be introducing our chief guest for the day, Srimati Sunita Lakshma Reddy Garu, to the audience here. Madam is presently the chairperson, Telangana State Commission for Women. Madam was born and brought up in Hyderabad. She completed her schooling from St. Anthony's School and her college graduation from Vanita Mahavidyalaya. Madam started her political career in the year 1999 by winning the assembly election from Narsapur constituency. Madam is not only known for her leadership skills and her initiatives, but she is also known for kindness and humane nature. That exactly is the reason why she won the election from the same constituency for 3 consecutive terms. Madam's successful foray into politics has been inspired by her father-in-law, late Sri Ramchandra Reddy Garu, and her husband, late Sri Lakshma Reddy Garu. Madam has continuously been in various positions wherein she served the cause for women. From the year 2000 to 2002, Madam served as the General Secretary, Mahila Congress and Medak District Convener. In 2003, she started the Lions Club in Narsapur, and she served as the charter president. From the year 2004 to 2009, Madam served as a member and chairperson of Women and Child Welfare Assembly Committee. In 2009, Madam took up the charge as State Cabinet Minister for Minor Irrigation, and from 2010 to 2014, Madam served as State Cabinet Minister for Indira Kranti Patham, Pensions, Women Development and Child Welfare, and Disability Welfare Department. From 2014 to 2019, Madam served as Deputy President for Medak District. Presently, Madam is using her rich and varied experience of the last 2 decades in helping PSCW achieve new milestones. She has successfully coordinated with the Women Development and Child Welfare Department, Police Department to empower women by providing them the requisite legal services. Even during the pandemic, along with the Telangana state government, PSCW has been instrumental in helping women. They have been especially instrumental in providing women, especially pregnant women, with oxygen cylinders, hospital beds, plasma, blood, platelets, medicines, to name a few. We are really glad you are with us today, ma'am. Thanks for that. Now I request Sunita Lakshma Reddy ma'am to please come and address our own. అందరికీ నమస్కారం. ఈరోజు మన రెడ్డి ఉమెన్స్ కాలేజ్ లో మరి మన గౌరవ ప్రిన్సిపల్ ప్రిన్సిపల్ గారు, వైస్ ప్రిన్సిపల్ కవిత గారు, మరి సభావేదికమైనటువంటి మన కాలేజ్ అయినటువంటి నెల్లగడ్డ పద్మావతి గారు, అదేవిధంగా శోభన శైలేంద్ర గారు, ఇంజక్షన్ రెడ్డి గారు, ఇక్కడ విచ్చేసినటువంటి లెక్చరర్స్, అదేవిధంగా స్టూడెంట్స్, ప్రొఫెసర్స్, మీ అందరికీ నా హృదయపూర్వక నమస్కారాలు తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నా. నిజంగా ఈరోజు మన కాలేజ్ ఆధ్వర్యంలో విమెన్ ఎంపవర్మెంట్ సెల్ ఆధ్వర్యంలో NCW ఇంటర్నేషనల్ కమిషన్ ఫర్ ఉమెన్ అండ్ కొలాబరేషన్స్ తో ఐడెంటిఫికేషన్ ఆఫ్ అబ్యూజివ్ రిలేషన్షిప్ అండ్ ప్రివెన్షన్ ఆఫ్ డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ పైన సెమినార్ ని కండక్ట్ చేయడం, మరి ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కి నన్ను ఆహ్వానించి మీ అందరిని కూడా కలుసుకునేటువంటి అవకాశం కల్పించినటువంటి ఎంపవర్మెంట్ సెల్ కి నా హృదయపూర్వక ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నా. మరి ఇక్కడ విచ్చేసినటువంటి పత్రికా మిత్రులకు కూడా నమస్కారాలు తెలియజేస్తూ, మరి నేను ఒకప్పుడు ఇక్కడ BSc జువాలజీకి అప్లికేషన్ పెట్టుకోవడం జరిగింది. ఈ కాలేజ్ స్టూడెంట్ కావాల్సినటువంటి నేను ఈ రోజు ఇక్కడ చీఫ్ గెస్ట్ రావడం నిజంగా నాకు చాలా సంతోషాన్ని ఇస్తుందని చెప్పి నేను తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నా. మరి నిజంగా రెడ్డి ఉమెన్స్ కాలేజ్ అంటే అప్పుడు వనిత మహావిద్యాలయం అంటే అప్పట్లో తల్లిదండ్రులకు ఏంటంటే పేరెంట్స్ కి విమెన్ కాలేజ్ అయితే మా పిల్లలు ప్రొటెక్ట్ గా ఉంటారు అనే ఆలోచనతో ఎస్పెషల్లీ విమెన్ కాలేజెస్ మీద నాకు అప్లికేషన్ పెట్టించడం జరిగింది. ఇక్కడ లిస్ట్ పడకుండా ముందు నాకు వనితా కాలేజ్ లో మరి అడ్మిషన్ రావడం, అక్కడే ఇంటర్ డిగ్రీ కూడా కంప్లీట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. మరి నిజంగా ఈ రెడ్డి ఉమెన్స్ కాలేజ్ అంటే అప్పటికి ఇప్పటికి ఒకే రకమైనటువంటి క్రేజ్ ఉంది. ఇక్కడే చదవాలి అన్న ఒక ఆలోచనతో చాలా మంది మరి రావడం జరుగుతుంది. ఇప్పటికీ యాజ్ ఎ పొలిటీషియన్ చాలా మంది మాకు రికమెండేషన్స్ కూడా ఇవ్వడం జరుగుతుంది. అంటే ఈ కాలేజ్ లో కానీ హాస్టల్లో కానీ మాకు అడ్మిషన్ ఇప్పించండి అని చెప్పేసి పేరెంట్స్ కూడా మమ్మల్ని రిక్వెస్ట్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. అంటే ఇక్కడ ఉంటే మా పిల్లలు ఒక డిసిప్లిన్ తో ఒక సేఫ్ గా ఉంటారన్న ఒక నమ్మకంతో ఇక్కడికి రావాలని చెప్పేసి పేరెంట్స్ కోరుకుంటారని చెప్పేసి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నా. మరి నిజంగా ఈ రెడ్డి ఉమెన్స్ కాలేజ్ గురించి మనం మాట్లాడుతున్న రాజా బాబు వెంకటరామరెడ్డి గారి గురించి మనం తెలుసుకోవాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం ఉంది. ఎందుకంటే అప్పట్లో మరి ఒంటికి పరమైనటువంటి మహిళలందరూ కూడా ఖచ్చితంగా చదువుకోవాలనే ఒక దృక్పథంతో, మరీ ముఖ్యంగా వెనుకబడినటువంటి గ్రామీణ ప్రాంతాల్లో ఉన్నటువంటి మహిళలు చదువుకోవాలని, వారికి ఒక క్వాలిటీ సంబంధించిన ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇవ్వాలనే ఒక ఆలోచనతో వారి ఈ కాలేజ్ ని ఏర్పాటు చేయడం, మరి కొన్ని దశాబ్దాల కాలంలో కూడా ఈ కాలేజ్ ఇంకా అదే రకమైనటువంటి గుర్తింపుతో ముందుకెళ్లడం నిజంగా కూడా సంతోషించదగిన విషయం. మరి దీన్ని కంటిన్యూ చేస్తున్నటువంటి మరి ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ని కానీ స్టాఫ్ ని కానీ మన మనస్ఫూర్తిగా అభినందించాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది అని చెప్పేసి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తూ వాళ్ళని అభినందిస్తా ఉన్నాను. మరి ఈ రోజు ఇక్కడ స్టూడెంట్స్ కానీ ఎంపవర్మెంట్ సెల్ ఏర్పాటు చేయడం కూడా చాలా అప్రిషియేట్ చేయాల్సింది. ఈ రోజు ఏంటంటే వర్క్ హరాస్మెంట్స్ చాలా జరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి. సో ఈ వర్క్ హరాస్మెంట్ కి సంబంధించి పాష్ యాక్ట్ అనేది, అంటే ప్రొటెక్షన్ ఆఫ్ ఉమెన్ హరాస్మెంట్ అనేది యాక్ట్ కూడా రావడం జరిగింది. ఆ యాక్ట్ సంబంధించిన విధంగానే ఈ రోజు ఇక్కడ ఉమెన్ ఎంపవర్మెంట్ సెల్ కూడా ఏర్పాటు చేయడం నిజంగా సంతోషించదగ్గ విషయం అని చెప్పేసి తెలియజేస్తాం. ఇక అందరికీ తెలుసా పాష్ యాక్ట్ అనేది ఏందో తెలుసా? తెలియదు. సో ఈ రోజు పాజ్ అంటే ఉమెన్ ప్రొటెక్షన్, ఎక్కడైనా మహిళ మరి పని చేసినటువంటి చోట లైంగిక విధంగా సెక్షువల్ హరాస్మెంట్ కూడా, అంటే ఫిజికల్ గా సెక్షువల్ హరాస్మెంట్ కాకుండా దానికి సంబంధించే విధంగా మరి అబ్యూస్ చేసేటువంటి విషయంలో మరి ఈ ఒక యాక్ట్ అంటే వారికి ప్రొటెక్షన్ చేయడానికి యాక్ట్ తీసుకొని రావడం జరిగింది. పాజ్ సెక్షన్ ప్రొటెక్షన్ ఆఫ్ ఉమెన్ ఫ్రమ్ సెక్షువల్ హరాస్మెంట్ వచ్చింది. సో ఈ యాక్ట్ ప్రకారం ఏంటంటే ఖచ్చితంగా ఒక 10 మెంబర్స్ పనిచేసినటువంటి ఒక కంపెనీ కానీ, స్కూల్ కానీ, ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ కానీ, ఎక్కడైనా సరే ఒక ఫ్యాక్టరీ, ఇండస్ట్రీ ఎక్కడైనా సరే మరి ఒక కమిటీని ఏర్పాటు చేయాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం ఉంది. ఆ కమిటీ ఏంటంటే అక్కడ ఉన్నటువంటి సీనియర్ ఉమెన్ ఆఫీసర్ ని చైర్మన్ గా, తర్వాత ఇద్దరిని మెంబర్స్ ని మరి విమెన్ ఎంప్లాయీస్ ని, ఒక ఎన్జిఓ అవేర్ ఆఫ్ ద విమెన్ ఇష్యూస్ పైన ఇంకొక మెన్ ఎవరైనా సరే మొత్తానికి 5 మెంబర్స్ తో కమిటీని ఏర్పాటు చేయాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం ఉంది. ఆ కమిటీని నోటీస్ బోర్డు లో డిస్ప్లే చేయాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం ఉంది. ఆ డిస్ప్లే చేసినటువంటి విషయం అందరికీ తెలిస్తే ఏదైనా అక్కడ ఉన్నటువంటి విమెన్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఫేస్ చేసినట్టయితే ఆ కమిటీ దృష్టికి తీసుకెళ్లడం, ఆ కమిటీ మరి ఎవరైతే మరి రెస్పాండెంట్స్ వారికి పిటిషన్ మరి వారికి నోటీస్ పంపడం, వితిన్ 6 months లో ఎంక్వైరీ చేయడం, తర్వాత మరి 9 months లో ఎంక్వైరీ చేయడం, 6 months లో యాక్షన్ తీసుకోవడం లాంటివి జరుగుతుంది. సో ఇది వర్క్ ప్లేస్ హరాస్మెంట్ కి సంబంధించి ప్రభుత్వం మనకు కల్పించినటువంటి అవకాశం. కాబట్టి ఇక్కడ ఎంతమంది స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉన్నారు, రేపు మీరు జాబ్స్ లో వెళ్తారు కాబట్టి ఈ యొక్క కమిటీ గురించి తెలుసుకోవాలని చెప్పేసి మీకు తెలియజేస్తున్నా. దాన్ని బేస్ చేసుకుని ఇక్కడ నేషనల్ కమిషన్ ఆధ్వర్యంలో ఉమెన్ ఎంపవర్మెంట్ సెల్ ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగిందని చెప్పేసి నేను అనుకుంటా ఉన్నాను. మరి అదేవిధంగా నా దగ్గరికి వస్తుందని ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ ఇన్వైట్ చేయడానికి మరి తెలిసినప్పుడు చెప్పడం జరిగింది. ఇక్కడ మా స్టూడెంట్స్ కానీ స్టాఫ్ అని చాలా యాక్టివ్ గా ఉన్నారు. విమెన్ ఇష్యూస్ కి సంబంధించి చాలా రెస్పాండ్ అవుతారు అని చెప్పడం జరిగింది. నిజంగా చాలా సంతోషం. మీకు ట్రైనింగ్ కూడా ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది అని చెప్పేసి చెప్తా ఉన్నారు. సో మాకు ఇంకా కొంత ట్రైనింగ్ అవసరం ఉందని కూడా చెప్పడం జరిగింది. మన తెలంగాణ విమెన్ కమిషన్ తప్పకుండా అటువంటి ఎవరైతే స్టూడెంట్స్ యాక్టివ్ గా ఉండి మేము సర్వీస్ చేస్తాం విమెన్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కి అనుకున్నప్పుడు ఆ తెలంగాణ కమిషన్ తప్పకుండా ఒక సెమినార్ ని కండక్ట్ చేసి ఆ విషయాలను కూడా తెలియజేస్తుందని చెప్పేసి కూడా మీకు హామీ ఇస్తా ఉన్నాను. మరి ఈరోజు అనుకున్నాను చాలా మాట్లాడుతా ఉన్నాం. మరి పురుషులతో సమానంగా పనిచేస్తా ఉన్నాం. ఒకప్పుడు ఇంటికి పరిమితమైనటువంటి మహిళలు. మరి ఈ రోజు ఏమవుతుంది, ఎంతైతే ఎక్కువగా మనం అడ్వాన్స్ గా పోతా ఉన్నామో అంతే రకమైనటువంటి రీతిలో మహిళల పైన విమెన్ పైన హరాస్మెంట్ జరుగుతూ వస్తా ఉంది. నిజంగా ఇది చాలా బాధాకరమైనటువంటి విషయం. కానీ మనం భరిస్తా ఉంటే ఆ సమస్య ఇంకా ఎక్కువ అవుతూనే ఉంటుంది. కానీ దాని కొన్ని సందర్భాల్లో మన జీవితాలు కూడా ఖరాబైనటువంటి పరిస్థితి వస్తూ ఉంది. దీని ప్రధానమైనటువంటి కారణం ఏంటంటే మనకు ప్రభుత్వం కల్పించినటువంటి చట్టాల పైన అవగాహన, యాక్ట్ పైన అవగాహన లేకపోవడం వల్ల మనకి ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ వస్తూ ఉన్నాయి. కాబట్టి ఎంత ఎక్కువ మాట్లాడితే అంత ఈ సమస్య పరిష్కారం కావడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది అని చెప్పి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నా. మనం ఈరోజు చూసుకున్నట్టయితే దాదాపు జిల్లాలో 50 to 55% విమెన్ మరి ఇటువంటి హరాస్మెంట్స్ గురవుతా ఉన్నారు. అంటే ప్రతి ముగ్గురులో ఒక మహిళ మరి ఈ హింస గురవుతున్నటువంటి సమస్యలు ఉన్నాయి. ఈ హింస అంటే మనం చూసుకున్నట్టయితే ప్రధానంగా డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ యాక్ట్, డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ కి సంబంధించినటువంటి హరాస్మెంట్స్ ఎక్కువ జరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి. ఈ డొమెస్టిక్ అంటే మీకు చాలా మంది ఎన్నో ఇక్కడ శైలేంద్ర గారు గారు మరి అదేవిధంగా మా ఎర్రగడ్డ గారు తను కూడా మరి చాలా పద్మావతి గారు చాలా విషయాలు ఇక్కడ ఎంఎస్ స్పీకర్స్ వాళ్ళు చెప్తారు. కానీ అయినప్పుడు కూడా గృహహింస అంటే ఏంటి? మరి గృహహింస అంటే ఫిజికల్, మెంటల్, ఫైనాన్షియల్, సెక్షువల్ హరాస్మెంట్ కి సంబంధించింది మనం డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ కింద మనము భావించవచ్చు. మరి ఈ డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ అనేది ఎట్లా జరుగుతుంది, ఎవరి ద్వారా జరుగుతుంది అని అనుకున్నప్పుడు మనతో పాటు ఉండేటువంటి మన తల్లిదండ్రులు కానీ, అన్నదమ్ములు కానీ, అక్క చెల్లెళ్ళు కానీ, భార్య భర్త కానీ, అత్త మామలు కానీ వీరందరి ద్వారా హింస గురైనట్టయితే దాన్ని డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ కింద మనము చేయడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. సో దీనికోసం ఏంటంటే ఈ ప్రాబ్లం నుంచి మన మహిళలకు రక్షణ కల్పించడానికి మరి ప్రభుత్వం డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ యాక్ట్ 2005 తీసుకొని రావడం జరిగింది. ఈ యాక్ట్ ద్వారా మరి మహిళలు అంటే మన డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ ప్రొటెక్షన్ ఆఫీసర్ అంటే డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ వెల్ఫేర్ ఆఫీసర్ ఉంటారు, అక్కడ కౌన్సిలర్ ఉంటారు. సో వీరి ఆధ్వర్యంలో మనకు సమస్య పరిష్కరించుకోవడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. సో మనకి విమెన్కి ఏదైనా ఇమీడియట్ హరాస్మెంట్ ఇమీడియట్ రెస్పాన్స్ కావాలి అంటే నేషనల్ హెల్ప్ లైన్, మీకు తెలుసా నేషనల్ హెల్ప్ లైన్ ఏదో 181, మనం ఇమీడియట్ గా 181 కానీ 100 కానీ మన పోలీస్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఫోన్ చేస్తే ఇమీడియట్ గా మనకు రెస్పాన్స్ రావడం జరుగుతుంది. అని రెస్క్యూ చేయడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది అని చెప్పి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తున్నాను. ఇంకా ఫిజికల్ గా కూడా మరి చాలా మంది కొట్టడం, చేయడం, చంపే ప్రయత్నం ఇవన్నీ చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. అటువంటి సమయంలో మనము 107కి ఫోన్ చేసినప్పుడు లేదంటే ఆ జిల్లాలో సఖీ సెంటర్ ఉంది, ప్రతి జిల్లా హెడ్ క్వార్టర్ లో సఖీ సెంటర్ ఉంది. ఇక్కడ హైదరాబాద్ లో కూడా సికింద్రాబాద్ లో సఖీ సెంటర్ ఉంది. ఆ సఖీ సెంటర్ కి మనం కాల్ చేసినట్టయితే అక్కడ నుంచి ఒక వెహికల్ వచ్చి ఆ మహిళను ప్రొటెక్ట్ చేసి 5 days షెల్టర్ ని కూడా ఆ సఖీ సెంటర్ లో మనకి ఏర్పాటు చేయడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. తర్వాత కౌన్సిలింగ్ చేయడం కానీ లేదంటే DWO ద్వారా DIR ఫైల్ చేసి మరి మనం ఈ డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ ద్వారా మనం ఎటువంటి రక్షణ పొందగలుగుతాము అంటే మనకి మెయింటెనెన్స్ వస్తుంది, ప్రొటెక్షన్ వస్తుంది, రెసిడెన్షియల్ ఆర్డర్ వస్తుంది, చైల్డ్ కస్టడీ వస్తుంది. ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఈ యొక్క డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ యాక్ట్ ద్వారా మహిళలకు కల్పించే అవకాశం అని చెప్పి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తున్నాను. మరి అంటే ఎందుకంటే ఈరోజు డొమెస్టిక్ వైలెన్స్ గురించి ఇక్కడికి మమ్మల్ని ఆహ్వానించడం జరిగింది కాబట్టి ఈ యాక్ట్ గురించి చెప్తాను. మాట్లాడినటువంటి మరి చాలా ఎమినెంట్ స్పీకర్స్ ఉన్నారు, వాళ్ళు చాలా అనుభవంతో మీకు చాలా విషయాలు కూడా చెప్తారని చెప్పేసి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తున్నా. ఏదైనా విమెన్ కి సంబంధించి ఏదైనా ఇబ్బంది వస్తే తప్పకుండా మీరు మా ఉమెన్ కమిషన్ కూడా అప్రోచ్ చేసుకోవడానికి అవకాశం ఉంది. డైరెక్ట్ గా కానీ, పోస్ట్ ద్వారా కానీ, మెయిల్ ద్వారా కానీ, లేదంటే మీరు మాకు ట్విట్టర్ అంటే సోషల్ మీడియా ద్వారా కానీ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇచ్చినట్టే మీ రెస్క్యూలోకి రావడం జరుగుతుంది అని చెప్పేసి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తా ఉన్నా. మరి ఇక్కడ చాలా మంది స్టూడెంట్స్ ఉన్నారు. నేను మీ అందరినీ కోరుకునేది ఒకటి, మన తల్లిదండ్రులు మన మంచి భవిష్యత్తు గురించి ఆలోచనతో మనకి కాలేజ్ చదివించడానికి పంపిస్తా ఉన్నారు. అంటే నేను అంటే ఒక ఇన్సిడెంట్ చెప్తా, ప్రాక్టికల్ గా నేను ఎదుర్కొనేటువంటి సమస్య. 18 years వరకు మ్యారేజ్ చేయదు, చదివియాలని చెప్పేసి మనం ఎక్కడైనా కూడా మాట్లాడుతూ ఉంటాం. అప్పుడు మా నియోజకవర్గంలో ఒక ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ మీరెవరు చదువుకోమని చెప్తా ఉన్నారు, కానీ మా పిల్లలు ఏమో మా ఉన్నటువంటి ప్రాంతాలు లేకుంటే సిటీస్ కి పంపిస్తా ఉన్నాం, అక్కడ మరి వాళ్ళు అవే పేరైతే అదే వెళ్ళిపోతా ఉన్నారు. అంటే అటువంటి దాంతో పిల్లల్ని చదివించకుండా ప్రయత్నం ఆపేస్తా ఉన్నారు అనేది మనం గమనించాలి. మరి మనం మన తల్లిదండ్రులకు అటువంటి కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ కూడా క్రియేట్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. మీరు ఫస్ట్ మన భవిష్యత్తు బాగుండి మనం బాగా చదువుకొని బాగా స్థిరపడిన తర్వాత ఆలోచన చేసి మన మ్యారేజ్ సిస్టంలో ముందుకు వెళ్ళాలి తప్ప ఇటువంటి చాలా సంఘటనలు ఉమెన్ కమిషన్స్ కి చాలా పిటిషన్స్ వస్తూ ఉన్నాయి. ఇదే విధమైనటువంటి ఎల్ఓపీస్ ద్వారా ముందుకు వెళ్ళడం, తర్వాత అవన్నీ విమెన్ ట్రాఫికింగ్ లో లిక్విడ్ చేసే కార్యక్రమాలు కూడా జరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి. మీరు గమనించాలని చెప్పేసి కూడా నేను తెలియజేస్తున్నా. కాబట్టి మీరు బాగా ఉండేటువంటి స్టూడెంట్స్ కూడా బాగా చదువుకోవాలని, తల్లిదండ్రులకు అనుగుణంగా మీరు వారి ఆశయాలు నెరవేర్చాలని, మరి ఉన్నతమైనటువంటి స్థానాలకు ఎదగాలని చెప్పేసి కూడా నేను మీ అందరినీ కోరుకుంటా ఉన్నాను. మరి మీకు ఏ ఇబ్బంది ఉన్నా కూడా ఇక్కడ ఉన్నటువంటి స్టూడెంట్స్ కి ప్రిన్సిపల్ గారు మన ఉమెన్స్ కి సంబంధించినటువంటి చైర్మన్ గారు కూడా మా ఇక్కడ ఉన్నటువంటి యాక్టివ్ గా పార్టిసిపేట్ చేస్తా ఉన్నారు. మాకు ట్రైనింగ్ కావాలన్నా తప్పకుండా ఉమెన్ కమిషన్ ఏర్పాటు చేసే విధంగా మేము చేస్తామని చెప్పి తెలియజేస్తాం. ఈరోజు రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వం కూడా మహిళల కోసం అనేక రకమైనటువంటి అవకాశాలు కల్పిస్తాం. కాలేజ్ వచ్చేటువంటి పిల్లల్ని ఫీజు చేసేటువంటి యాక్టివిటీస్ బస్ తగిన కానీ కాలేజ్ లో ర్యాగింగ్ కానీ జరుగుతుంది. దానికోసం మరి షీ టీమ్స్ కూడా ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగింది. అదేవిధంగా మనకి భరోసా సెంటర్స్ ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగింది. ఉమెన్ సేఫ్టీ వింగ్ ని ఏర్పాటు చేయడం జరిగింది. వీటన్నింటిని కూడా మీరు ఉపయోగించుకోవాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం ఉంది. ఎక్కడ ఇబ్బంది వచ్చినా కూడా ఇమీడియట్ గా 191 అనేది గుర్తు చేసుకోవాలి. ఈ రోజు పోలీస్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ద్వారా కూడా హాయ్ అని చెప్పేసి మనకు ఒక హ్యాప్ ని కూడా ఇంట్రొడ్యూస్ చేయడం జరిగింది. మీరు వెళ్తున్నటువంటి ఏరియాని ట్రాక్ చేయడం ట్రాఫిక్ ఛానల్లో కానీ ఒంటరిగా వెళ్ళేటువంటి హ్యాట్ అయిన కూడా మీరు ఉపయోగించుకోవడానికి అవకాశం ఉంది. సో ప్రభుత్వం చేసినటువంటి ప్రతి విషయాన్ని కూడా మీరు తెలుసుకున్నట్టయితే మరి మన మహిళలకు ఎటువంటి ఇబ్బంది ఉండదు. సెల్ఫ్ డిఫెన్స్ టెక్నిక్స్ కూడా నేర్చుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది అని చెప్పేసి కూడా మీ అందరికీ తెలియజేస్తూ ఈ రోజు మీ అందరితో పార్టిసిపేట్ చేసేటువంటి అవకాశం కల్పించినటువంటి ఉమెన్స్ ఎంపవర్మెంట్ సెల్ఫీ ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తూ మన స్పీకర్స్ చాలా మంచి అనుభవం ఉన్నటువంటి స్పీకర్స్ ఉన్నారు. వాళ్ళు చెప్పేటువంటి విషయాలను కూడా అర్థం చేసుకోవాలని చెప్పేసి తెలియజేస్తూ సెలవుకుంటున్నాను. జై హింద్.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your thought-provoking address set a perfect platform for our resource persons to deliver their presentation in their different areas of expertise. And now I would like to request the principal, ma'am, Dr. S.D. Adhika Devi, ma'am, vice principal, Dr. Kavita, ma'am, and the secretary and correspondent of the college, Introduction Reddy, sir. Please felicitate the chief guest, ma'am, Sunita Lakshma Reddy, ma'am. Sir, please come and join us for the presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Since it is getting very late, we are starting with the first technical session. May I now request all the dignitaries on the dais. I request Afifa to propose formal vote of thanks for the inaugural session.
Gratitude makes sense of a past, brings peace for today and creates the vision for tomorrow. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks. I, Afifa Hamad, on behalf of Reddy Women's College and the entire fraternity of the sincere appreciation towards our chief guest, Sri Lakshmi Ma'am, who spared time from a busy schedule to grace us. Today we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, Ma'am, and I think this will surely encourage us in all of the surrender. Ma'am, your active role with the government to empower women and your unique experience is added to the glory of this event. Ma'am, please accept my deep felt gratitude towards your influential words in the empowerment world. I would like to take a moment and pay my deepest regards to the Telangana State Commission for Women for their support. This event would not have been possible.
Freedom, opportunities, dignity, and
honor to invite Professor Vibhuti Patel to address.
Very good morning. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the organizers. Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So first of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to RBBBR Women's College for giving me opportunity to share my thoughts. Respected Srimati V. Sunita Lakshma Reddy, Dr. Yaralandgada Padmavati, Dr. Sunita Manda, Dr. Shavanti, Dr. Shobna Shailendra, Dr. Prasanna Solomon, and the esteemed participants for the national seminar on identification of abusive relations, prevention of domestic violence, which is sponsored by National Commission for Women. And I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. Is it visible? Hello? Is my PPT visible? Hello? Is the PPT visible? Okay. So,
yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. So as this first poster shows that domestic violence, and I think the previous speakers also highlighted that how domestic violence gets manifested in the economic violence, psychological violence, emotional violence, sexual violence, and physical violence. And Andhra Pradesh is the first state which has created a comprehensive structures and mechanisms to address this mind-boggling issue way back in 2005 when the act was enacted. And Madam Renuka Chaudhary was a minister who was the first minister of Ministry of Women and Child Development. And Andhra Pradesh created also the ward-wise mechanism, community-based one-stop crisis centers. So as we see that domestic violence has implications in terms of physical forms of abuse, sexual forms of abuse, psychological forms of abuse, stalking a person, the tormentor stalking the victim, and financial and other environmental controls that you face in your day-to-day survival struggle. We need to understand the role that the women's movement has played in getting this new law and also the campaign against domestic violence. It was in 1983 that domestic violence was recognized as a specific criminal offense by the introduction of Section 498A into the Indian Penal Code. And this section deals with cruelty by husband and his family towards married women. 4 types of cruelty that are dealt by this law is a conduct that is likely to drive a woman to suicide, conduct which is likely to cause grave injury to the life, limb, and health of the woman, harassment with the purpose of forcing the woman or her relatives to give some property, and harassment because the woman or her relatives is unable to yield to the demands of more money, the greed of the in-laws, and also doesn't give some property. So I think these are the collective experiences of women's organizations providing support to women in distress due to domestic violence in several parts of the country, and all the new organizations that emerged after 1980. So what we see when we talk about identification of domestic violence, you need to focus on the kind of psychological, physical, and economic abuse that you face. You are not getting, you are constantly made to cringe and you crawl to get daily expenses. Then the question of the whole setup, which is very, very oppressive, that you have, the kind of fantasy that you are in as a victim, that, okay, there must be my fault. So victim blaming, you self-blaming that you do because that, okay, I'm not a good cook, or I don't look beautiful, or I'm too fat, or my sense of dress is not good. There is some husband needs to discipline me. So that kind of fantasy also you get into, instead of locating that it is an abusive relationship and you are a victim. And also you treat it as a normal. Aisa to hota hai. For generations, for 5,000 years, we have been beaten up. There are sayings in the scriptures, ke dol gamar shudra pashunari, ye shaptaran ke adhikari, women and shudras and broom, and drum, they need to be beaten regularly. So if you normalize this kind of violence, you also make an excuses. So instead of telling that it is a domestic violence, you would say, oh, I slipped in the bathroom, or I was just walking and I just banged my head. So you would not even tell the actual story, and you also feel guilty that why it happens to me? All other people are so happy, they have such a happy marriage, and why only I have? There is something really, it is my destiny, or it is my upbringing, or it is my characteristic, or it is my personality that is responsible for. Now, because of this status quoist idea that domestic violence is my destiny, domestic violence cannot be, it should not be talked in public. It should be talked in a hush-hush tone. You don't even tell your parents. Even after marriage, you won't tell your parents because you think that but they will get a shame, community, they will lose their face. Currently, we are seeing highest number of NRI marriages. They have are reported in the ministry, home ministry. More than 2 lakh women have reported that how they were abused when they left India, or even the husbands have eloped, and still they are maintaining the facade that everything is all is good and everything is all right. So because of this not directly confronting this problem and directly looking into the face of domestic violence, we have a situation where one dowry death takes place in our country every 78 minutes. One act of sexual harassment takes place every 59 minutes. One rape takes place in 34 minutes. One act of molestation takes place every 16 minutes. And one act of torture takes place every 12 minutes. So these are far more cases. These are only the reported cases, reported to the National Crime Records Bureau, reported in the police, in the criminal justice system. So we need to understand that we have to be prepared to stop violence against women. And the domestic violence is not only by man to women, it is also women to men to men, women to women in violence in the older people. So many elderly people are abused. So abuser depends on the secrecy to conceal their crimes, because these crimes are committed in privacy, and there is also a sense of shame on the part of victim that they don't even talk about these crimes. And that is why tormentors and those who are abusers, they get courage that, and I can get away with anything. I have immunity. Nobody's going to talk about it. And the act is committed to unmasking and arresting abusers. So it's very important that we join this campaign. We create a national level awareness and consciousness raising about the issue of domestic violence, because domestic violence is also shrouded with several myths. Myth number one: alcohol is the main cause of domestic violence. Actually, our experience of last 40 years shows that alcohol accounts of domestic violence in less than 30% of cases. Most men beat their wives when they are sober. Even the gentlemen, people with very good degrees and positions in the society, right from judges and lawyers and teachers and professors and entrepreneurs and industrialists and upper class, highly qualified chartered accountant and PhDs, all of them resort to, scientists also resort to domestic violence. Myth number two is that domestic violence doesn't affect middle class women, which is a very big myth. Only thing, in case of middle class women, the fact is that middle class women are less likely to talk about domestic violence, and they can also hide it because they are either in a flat or a bungalow where they can be secretive. While in the bastis, in the slums, things are not secret. Everything becomes public. Studies show that at least 1 in 5 middle-class women have experienced domestic violence. If you read current NFHS study, National Family Health Survey of round 5 has shown that nearly 22% women have reported violence in 2019-20, but during the pandemic, it escalated, and now nearly 1/3 of Indian women have experienced domestic violence. The third myth is that domestic violence only occurs after provocation. So you provoke. So even the way police ask, even the way conventional social work institutions or shelter homes ask, What was wrong? Why did he beat you up? And the woman says, he said that he did not like the sambar I made. And they say, okay, so it's your fault. Next time you should make better quality of sambar. Or they would say that I wore sari while he wanted me to wear salwar kameez, and that's why he beat me up. So always locating the crime, locating the violence in the body of a woman rather than the man who is so intolerant. The things which can be sorted out through negotiation, through discussion, through respectful conversation, is dealt with by violence, and that the fault is not with the person victim, but it is with the abuser. The fact is that many women die or are left with permanent injuries as a result of domestic violence. And domestic violence often doesn't require an adequate reason, and any flimsy excuse, whether food is not cooked properly or children are crying, are used by, or you did not respect my mother, or you did not look after the guest very properly. That can be the excuse for a man to beat. Myth number 4 is that domestic violence is not a serious health concern for women. My husband is the one who worked for One Stop Crisis Center. It was being a doctor, and I was active feminist activist and was dealing with domestic violence cases day in and day out. And he saw that it is not even treated as a serious concern. And I think it is a very important public health issue, because after domestic violence, where do women go? Or when they are injured, their bones are broken, they are bleeding, their eyes are affected, and where do they go? If you go to the nursing home, private nursing home, they say, no, this is a issue of the beating. It can create medical legal problem. We will not take it up. And that's why the government hospitals, or they need to be empowered to deal with domestic violence, because even in the casualty ward, when a woman goes for injury, what is written in the report? That injury mark around the eye, left hand bone broken. But what are the reasons behind this breaking of a bone or the sudden miscarriage of a woman? They only explain the biological aspect. They don't explain the sociological aspect, and women also don't report. So for the whole project which was started, One Stop Crisis Center, which was started within the 1,200 bedded municipal hospital called Baba Hospital, which inspired so many state governments, the whole participatory research training which was done in this hospital, where the right from liftman to ward boy to casualty ward doctors to medical social workers and psychiatric social workers and hospital administration and the chief medical officer, all of them got involved in the process of identification of abusive relationship and what kind of strategies we can evolve to provide support to women who are completely devastated physically, psychologically, emotionally, and they are under depressed, extremely low self-esteem that they experience. So we have known that in so many cases, domestic violence results into death, results into miscarriage of a pregnant woman, results into massive permanent injury and permanent disability for women and children who are the victims of violence. Even with the elderly, this can happen. Myth number 5 is that women who do not leave violent domestic situations must think that such violence is justified. So this whole rationalizing that why are you in the violent situation, people ask, but we know that often women have nowhere else to go. Her parents would not accept them. We have a custom which we have a proverb which says, like whole of North India, when a woman gets married, they said, now you are going to your in-laws place. You can't come back. This your parents' place, your natal home is you can come as a guest, but your home is your in-laws' home, whether you are living or dead. Only your funeral can come out of your in-laws place. So this kind of beliefs also create a problem where so many parents approach women's rights organization and the counseling center after the woman is dead. Throughout the 80s, our experience was that brother or father would come to our organization to take revenge with the in-laws after their own daughter was killed, murdered, or burnt alive. And we would ask them that such kind of ill treatment doesn't happen in one day. First they insult her, then they prevent her from talking to neighbors, then they prevent her from using telephone, then they starve her, they give her leftover food. So many, it's a whole series of humiliation. And the tormentors also know that if the victim doesn't protest, doesn't get any support, they become bolder and bolder and bolder, and then finally it results in a murder. But when actual or tormentation starts, insult starts, discrimination starts, at that time only, if you take step, you can prevent this kind of tragedy in your family. That's what we have been telling in the women's movement. And now you can see the changing trends where parents are taking action, or friends are taking action, colleagues are taking action. They don't treat it as a personal problem of that woman, but it is a social problem. And right from neighbors and the strangers, all of them have duty to intervene any time when they see such violence. So it is very important to shatter this myth. These are the posters which have come out as a result of the competition organized by the One Stop Crisis Center in Bombay, Baba Hospital, because next to the hospital, there is a Fine Arts Institute, and they would ask the students of fine arts to come up with a poster. 80 students would take part, a whole batch would take part, 80 posters would be there. We would invite the judges, and also from interdisciplinary jury would be invited from different disciplines. And the best posters were converted into a poster of the government. And the Maharashtra state used these posters. They are available in English, Gujarati, Marathi, Hindi, and Urdu, and they are disseminated through the Panchayati Raj institutions to generate awareness. So the break silence to fight violence is a very important slogan of the women's movement. Stand for yourself. Unless you respect yourself, unless you do anything to for your self-defense and self-preservation and for your own dignity, why should anyone else respect you? So the fight begins from yourself, that you have to fight your own battles, fight for your rights. Silence is not a virtue. In fact, there is an organization in Ahmedabad, which was formed by Professor Ila Patel way back in 1970s, that AWAG, Ahmedabad Women's Action Group. And the main motto of that organization, Awaz is a noise, Awaz is a voice in Gujarati. And they said that silence is not a virtue, fight for your rights, raise your voice. Now, what are the forms of cruelty recognized by the criminal justice system and the insisting on perverse sexual conduct, or any kind of a perverse without any consent, constantly locking women out of the house, throwing her out at night, and she's screaming and please take me in, and not allowing her access to the house, denying women access to children, thereby causing mental torture, physical violence, taunting, demoralizing, insulting in front of guests and neighbors and dudwala and milkman and vegetable vendors, in front of all, to deride her, to break her self-confidence and self-esteem, putting down the woman with intention of causing mental torture, confining women, which is called gaslighting. Now, there is a movie also called Gaslighting. You must, all of you, watch that, how a man play psychological and emotional game to completely make woman nervous and control that person, no? So confining women at home, not allowing her to normal social intercourse with the discussion, the friends, not allowing friends, not allowing her people whom she likes, not allowing colleagues, not allowing any conversation with the neighbors. So that is also can be considered as a cruelty. Abusing children in their mother's presence with an intention to cause a mental torture, because mother and children are extremely closely associated. So deliberately you would hit the child. So maybe mother-in-law, father-in-law, uncle-in-law, or sister-in-law, they may deliberately hit your child to hurt you. Denying paternity of children with the intention to inflict mental pain upon the mother, that, oh, you must have had, this child is not mine, it is an illegitimate child, you must have had adulterous relationship. So there are so many suspicious husbands, suspicious spouses, they also use this weapon. Threatening divorce unless dowry is given. So continuous demand of dowry right from the time of engagement till after marriage, and even after childbirth, even after 10 years of marriage, that is also construed as a cruelty. Now, what is a matrimonial home? There are certain important aspects of the law that you need to understand. And when you present your case, when you file your FIR, or when you make your presentation in the court, it's very important that what rights do women have in their matrimonial home. Matrimonial home is a household a woman shares with her husband, whether it is rented or officially provided or owned by husband and his relatives. A woman has the right to remain in matrimonial home along with her husband as long as she is married. Though there is no definite law regarding this right, if a woman is being pressurized to leave matrimonial home, she can ask the court for injunction or restraint order protecting her from being thrown out. This can usually be obtained quite easily. It is generally advisable not to leave matrimonial home. That is what we have been advising right from this time we started doing the support work to women survivor of violence, that please don't leave your home. Once you go, it would be very, very difficult to re-enter. It is easier to get court order preventing a woman from being thrown out than get an order enforcing her right to return, because husband would say she had eloped, she had run away. He would lie that she is just a wayward person and she has gone away. But once she has left the home, why does she want to come back? So this kind of lies are also used by the tormentor. So it is very important to stay within, so you can take police protection. And now the DV Act gives right to residence. You will not be evicted. The tormentor will be evicted from the house. So it is very important not to leave the matrimonial home. What is an injunction and how does it apply in domestic violence cases? An injunction is a court order directing a person to do or not to do something. A woman has a lot of flexibility regarding what she can request the court to order. For instance, if she is being stalked by somebody, even by her husband or by her partner, because in Maharashtra we have a provision where even couples living under in a live-in relationship, they are also covered by the DV Act. She can obtain injunction against the person coming near her home or a place of work and even telephoning her. What can be done in case of dowry-related harassment or a dowry death? Section 498A of Indian Penal Code covers dowry-related harassment as well as other forms of domestic violence. As with other provisions of criminal law, a woman can use threat of going to court to deter this kind of harassment. The Indian Penal Code also addresses dowry deaths in the section 304B. If a woman dies in unnatural causes, into inverted comma, either suicide or burns or fatal injury, these are unnatural causes, within 7 years of marriage and has been harassed for dowry before her death, the court will assume, so all the letters, correspondence, WhatsApp messages, emails, letters written for the demand of dowry, whatever evidences you have, you must preserve them. And they have been, and the court will assume that it is a case of dowry death. The husband or in-laws will then have to prove that their harassment was not the cause of her death. A dowry death is punishable with imprisonment of at least 7 years. When filing first-hand the FIR first-hand report, it is in a case where a woman is suspected to have been murdered after a history of torture due to dowry deaths, the complainants should be filed under section 304B. And I think this every woman, every girl should know that 304B will come to her rescue rather than under 306, which deals with abatement to suicide. Best thing is to use 304B, and section 306 should be invoked only when women commit suicide because of dowry related harassment. In any other form of harassment which is not related to dowry, you should use section 304B. Can you refuse to have sex with your husband? Is there a law on marital rape? Since India doesn't have a law on marital rape, even if a woman's husband has sexual intercourse with her without her consent, he cannot be prosecuted for rape. However, excessive and unreasonable demands for sex or the demands for unnatural sex have been considered forms of cruelty and may entitle women to have a divorce. If a woman is judicially separated, her husband cannot have sexual intercourse with her without her consent. If he does, he can be prosecuted under rape law, which is 376A of Indian Penal Code. Note that consent under pressure, for example, because of a threat, if you don't have sex with me, I'll kill your brother, or I will throw acid on you, or I will break your bone, or I will stalk you, I will send dirty SMSs and MMSs and emails to all your friend circle. So this kind of threats to injure or to stop or I'll stop paying maintenance, that cannot be considered valid. So it is very important that this kind of pressure cannot be exercised. What can a woman do to prevent domestic violence? One option is to get woman's husband to execute. One is a bond to keep peace. So that is also, so many countries, they take such bond from a husband that henceforward he will not use his hand, he will not beat her up, he will not use psychological games to injure, psychologically and emotionally injure her, or a bond of good behavior through executive magistrate who can order husband to put a stop on domestic violence. Husband can also be asked to deposit securities, money and property that will be forfeited if he continues to act violently. So the court can ask, even the magistrate can ask, that can you just have a FD? You just give the amount to the court, which will be, if you misbehave with her again, then that amount you will not get. It will be given to the wife. Constitution of India, under the fundamental rights, Article 14, which guarantees equal rights and opportunities for men and women in political, economic, and social spheres. Article 15, that prohibits discrimination on ground of sex, religion, and caste. Article 15(3) empowers the state to take affirmative measures for women. So one who is weak, one who is at the receiving end, one who is powerless, to stand by that person, the state should stand by that person. And Article 16, that provides for equality of opportunities in matter of public appointment. So we can understand that crime, domestic violence or abusive relationship is not only a crime against that person, it is a crime against the state as per the Constitution of India, crime against the nation. So during the peak of women's movement in the 1980s, where so many cases of dowry murders were reported, women had protested, so many cases of domestic violence and so many studies on domestic violence by the prestigious researchers and public the activists and public intellectuals like Advocate Flavia Agnes or U. Vindhya in Hyderabad. They constantly did very rigorous researches on the question of domestic violence and dowry murders. As a result of that, what we got was Justice Bhagwati, who was a Supreme Court judge, the chief judge of Supreme Court of India. He came up with an idea that we should have a legal access authority, Legal Service Authorities Act was passed in 1987, which would make the state to take responsibility of the survivor of violence, or in cases of murder of a person, where the state would pay the legal fees, they would ensure the justice, because there are so many other people from marginalized section who don't have wherewithal to enter the court, who don't have a wherewithal to hire the services of a lawyer. State takes the responsibility. So the Legal Service Authorities Act, like the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, is also supported by the union budget, by the centrally sponsored scheme, where the union government gives one portion. It can be 60% from the central government and 40% from the state, or 70% from central government and 30% from the state. And in the union territories, all 100% of the finances are given by the state. Most of the places, Legal Service Authorities Act budget always remains unutilized because people are not aware of it. Wherever the citizens organization, women's rights groups, human rights organization demand accountability of the National Legal Service Authority and the District Legal Service Authority, it functions. It has a twin job of providing legal services and also awareness generation and conducting legal aid programs for the public education. Now we have family laws which are based on religion. We have 30,000 customary laws in our country. The laws relating to marriage, divorce, inheritance, custody of child, right to stay in a maternal home, right to stay in a matrimonial home, right to stay in a natal home, or guardianship rights of children, housing rights, land rights, all of them are under family laws. So we have a common law in the labor matter concerning labors. So labor laws and criminal laws are applicable equally to all the citizens of India. But when it comes to family laws, women from different religions are treated differentially, because the British government, under the colonial times, the codification of family laws took place according to religion. So you have a Christian Divorce Act, you have a 1865, you have a Hindu code, Hindu Property Right Act, you had a Syrian Christian personal law, or you have a Parsi personal law, or you have a Sharia, which is applicable to Muslim personal law. What we have seen over last 40 years, because of the women's rights movement and activism, we have seen that individual women have challenged various discriminatory aspects of family laws within their own religion, starting with Mary Roy, who challenged Syrian Christian property right and her brothers after she became a widow. And she went with her daughter Arundhati Roy to the ancestral home. Brothers, she got a job in Kerala. She was an educated. She became a headmistress of a Corpus Christi convent. But her brothers, they said that she had no right to stay in the house. Then she demanded a property right. The Syrian Christian property right only gives 5,000 rupees or equivalent to daughter, and which Mary Roy challenged. She was giving public lectures. She collected more than 200,000 signatures, which she presented to the Supreme Court of India to say that she is representing the needs and aspirations of Syrian Christian women, so many of whom are divorced, who are separated, whose husbands have deserted them. They have gone they are migrated away from India. There are rumors that they are staying with other women, and still the daughters would not get any property right. And she won the case. Similarly, we had a Lata Mittal and her sister who challenged that Hindu daughters should become a co-personary right, and they also got the equal right in property for Hindu daughters in the ancestral property. We had a Parsi woman who said that if Parsi woman marries a non-Parsi man, she can't be socially boycotted by the Parsi Panchayat. She won her case in 2017. And we also saw the 6 women who filed petition criminalizing triple talaq under the banner of Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan, BAMMA. They also won their case in the Supreme Court in 2017. So the test of validity of the family laws to be made on the touchstone of Article 13 of the Constitution, that has been the popular demand of the human rights organizations, that gender justice should be the touchstone. A number of positive amendments have been brought in the couple of years. Removal of upper limit on Section 125 under Criminal Procedure Code, place of filing divorce proceedings. It is not that you have to file your divorce proceeding only where in your in-laws house. Anywhere a woman is, she can file the divorce proceedings from anywhere she is residing currently. A woman's rights to stay in a parental as well as matrimonial home as per the Domestic Violence Act 2005. And I think it is very important for women who are are getting into the marital relationship, which is interstate. You are from Tamil Nadu and you are marrying a person from UP, or if you are from Kerala, you are marrying a person from Punjab. In that case, it is very important. This new amendment is very, very important in case your marriage becomes sour or you face domestic violence, then and you are thrown out and you come back to your native place, then you can even file cases from where you are. And this is very important even in case of NRI marriages. If a woman is extremely tortured and somehow she approaches the Indian embassy makes the arrangement for her to come from England to India. So even from India, she can file the case. So it is very important to register your marriage. It's extremely important. If your marriage is registered in India and you can use the legal system, Indian legal system, is to get justice in case of domestic violence. A lot remains to be done, especially amendment to Section 6 of Guardians and Ward Act, which is founded on the philosophy of Pitakshara, which says that, which believes in the seed and soil theory. The man is a seed and woman is a soil. So who gets the rights over fruits? So they said that because of seed, you got the tree. And that's why man becomes a natural guardian. And to challenge natural guardianship of a man is very, very difficult. Woman has to fight for sometimes for 8, 10, 12 years by the time that child also becomes an adult. No. So it is so recognizing mother's rights, which so many countries have done, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, African countries, and even America, mother's rights are respected, even in Canada. So I think we need to make such amendments that this guardianship, natural guardianship, should not be for women, that by default, even if he's alcoholic, even if he has another woman, even if he is irresponsible, even if he doesn't earn, why should a man be the natural guardian? And then woman has to prove in a court that he's not capable to become a father. He's a drug addict, or he's abusive, or he's a child is not emotionally attached to the man, and also he's not earning. So all those things she has to prove in the court, which goes on, the cases go on for a long time because of the patriarchal bias of the judiciary. Now, Criminal Law 498A, and now after that, what we got was the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, which recognizes the right to residence of the aggrieved person, of the victim of violence, provision for the appointment of protection officers and recognition of service providers, training of, because protection officers also have a baggage of patriarchy the way all of us have. So whether you are a woman or a man, gender sensitization is very important. Explaining the different provisions in the law. Who are the 5 service providers: hospital, duty of the hospital, duty of the police, duty of a medical and psychiatric social workers, duty of counselor, duty of protection officer has to coordinate all this, and the legal access, child's welfare if the child is also there with the woman. All these things need to be explained through training program. Awareness generation of the public is also very important. Public education on the DV Act, and also budgetary allocation adequate, except for Andhra Pradesh, one doesn't see other governments, state governments, who have even utilized the complete funds. Either, first of all, there is a very inadequate fund, and even if fund is there, nearly 2/3 of it remains unutilized. 7 out of 7 northeastern states, I think Mizoram is the one, Mizoram, Nagaland, Manipur, they have completely utilized their fund. So it is very important that we ask our elected representatives also to become serious about the domestic violence. So the question of the educational campaign, poster campaign, which they have started, that when 50% of women have experienced domestic violence, as per the definition of DV Act, Powda Act, so you should not just be the silent spectator. You should not be just the onlooker. You have to speak out as a citizen, speak out as a neighbor, speak out as a friend, speak out as a colleague, speak out as a sister-in-law or parents. So it is very important to bring the hidden issue of domestic violence into the public domain. We need to understand that the DV Act has 2 aspects. Civil aspects, they deal with the property and marriage and divorce and custody of child and right to residence and all. And there is a criminal angle which deals with the violence. What kind of violence? So distinction between civil and criminal law is a basic part of Indian legal system. Civil laws deal with the rights and obligations of people and what is needed to protect them, while the criminal law deals with the offenses and its punishment. In a criminal offense, state takes upon itself responsibility to investigate and collect evidences through police, to fight cases in court through public prosecutor, and to enforce the punishment by the judiciary. Robbery, murder, kidnapping are examples of criminal offenses. Criminal offenses are dealt with by IPC. Procedure by which the criminal trial is conducted is quite different from the processes involved in the civil rights. An important difference is that the standard of proof required in criminal case is much higher than the civil cases. If it's an economic offense, then you can easily prove it. Since the criminal law is centrally linked with the issue of punishment, allegations and facts must be proved beyond reasonable doubt so that innocent people are not punished. In civil cases, court scrutinizes the balance of probabilities before deciding in whose favor the judgment should go. Now, the DV Act has both the aspects. DV Act, Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, takes care of both the civil and the criminal aspect. So in case of domestic violence, both the laws apply, civil law and the criminal law. Inflicting physical violence on a wife or a daughter-in-law, as well as subjecting her to cruelty, physical, mental, sexual, emotional, economic, in a marriage is not only civil offense, it also provides the ground for divorce, which is called a matrimonial offense, but is also a criminal offense under IPC, Indian Penal Code, for which a person can be imprisoned. The laws dealing with marital abuse have been made very, very stringent through amendments in IPC, Indian Penal Code, and also Indian Evidence Act. Implementation of the law of the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, where each and every state government and the local self-government bodies, they have to appoint and empower the statutory authorities at the central and state level. Preparation of police statement by each such statutory authorities, enclosing clear guidelines on the manner of implementation of law, such as code of conduct, to be followed by functionaries, whether they are protection officer or counselor or hospital authorities or police or legal system court, and provision of best practices. Very important. Evaluation and auditing of effectiveness of particular laws and the periodic publication and submission of compliance reports with the central statutory authority is a mandatory. Upgrading the quality of statistics maintained on women. So, with National Crime Record Bureau, State Crime Record Bureau, police station must maintain the records of the crime and what kind of injuries are there. Each statutory body to conduct yearly survey in particular field, and this database, the pool of this data is directed to the NCRB, National Crime Record Bureau, which gives the quarterly report. Implementation of the law it has to be done by building capacity of functionaries appointed under the law, such as statutory authority, police personnel, health personnel, counselors, by conducting regular training on law, including aspects of gender sensitization, as well as improving practices followed by them. And that's why National Commission for Women has taken upon a very important responsibility to do such educational program, organize national workshops, capacity building workshops, as well as the seminars and webinars for a larger public and for the community as such. Introducing mechanisms to ensure quicker and simpler procedures for women to obtain legal redress to their problem. This would include provision of legal aid, assistance at the time of registering complaints, making applications, provision of information on legal options available, what are the options she has, whether she should stay with their in-laws or they would take the memorandum or a bond of good behavior, or the crime is of such an, the injury and the violence is of such a nature that just it's not possible to have any negotiation. So these choices are there in front of a survivor. Raising awareness of services and support available to women facing discrimination from both governmental and governmental sources, non-governmental sources. So which are the NGOs, which are the voluntary organizations, which are the citizens group, are there any SHGs or women elected representatives in the urban and local, urban, rural, local self-government bodies, what kind of support they can get. Ensuring a representation of women in statutory advisory boards and also policy making bodies, that is also mandated by the law for effective implementation of the law. Sustained interaction between different governmental agencies, Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Rural Development, Finance Ministry because of the budgetary allocation, National Commission for Women, State Commission for Women, National Mission for Empowerment of Women. All these important agencies should also have a regular interaction to promote multi-agency working. Allocation of adequate budget for proper functioning of statutory authorities. So we have to constantly raise this issue of increase to convert gender commitments into the financial commitments and allocate funds, functions, and functionaries for effective implementation of the law. Constant monitoring and auditing of accounts by the central authority, CAGs, and CAG always does that. A submission of financial report to the Auditor General for it to be placed before the floor of Parliament or state legislature, as case may be. Affirmative actions by the various state groups improve women's economic capacities, so improve women's access to and control of income and assets, recognize her shared right in the family home, incorporate the principle of division of community property in the divorce laws, provide productive assets and property are critical to strengthening economic independence, economic self-dependence, and social status of a woman. That is what we have experienced even in the self-help SHG movement, that after joining the SHG and becoming economically self-supporting, women have gained. They have been able to reduce domestic violence at a macro level. Providing income opportunities and improved respect for women outside marriage and family. So overall status of women also should be improved, so that there is a reflex. So personal is political. You can gain better respect in the personal life only when society also respects you. And that is what the history of social reform movement, freedom movement, the function is organized under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of independence of the country. So the way we respect Bharat Mata, we also have to respect women and girls in our society. Then they can have a better negotiating power within the family. Training and the gender sensitization programs designed to train, sensitize, and interlink those working in a critical entry points of domestic violence, or identify and treat abused women, it should be the priority, with one aim being increased accountability of all these institutions, whether it's a police or court or community leaders or social workers. Such programs should be tailored for medical personnel, judiciary, counseling, and other supportive service providers. We need to have also, the media also needs to be aware about these issues. They should not trivialize domestic violence. They should take it as a serious social issue. The doctors' organization like Medical Friends Circle, People's Health Assembly, or the Health Rights Movement is also fighting for domestic violence to be treated as a public health emergency, public health issue. It is not only COVID pandemic, but this is also. So mobilization of communities around campaigns such as zero tolerance to violence requires improved skills, capacity from NGOs to enter new forms of dialogue with journalists and media personnel to heighten awareness of human rights and their significance in addressing domestic violence. The batterers, now so many psychologists and even organizations like NIMHAS are saying we must work also with the batterers so that they stop being abusive, because if we have such a huge problem of domestic violence, where the World Bank says that the major occupational hazard in the 21st century is the domestic violence related absenteeism in the economy. So we must introduce, both government and the voluntary sector should introduce the program of how to be non-violent. Unlearning violent behavior is very important, and that can start from very early childhood stage. Community participation, like the campaign was a Bail Bajao campaign, or in UP they had a campaign, white ribbon campaign. Southall Black sisters who stood by Karanjit Kaur Ahluwalia when she was charged of a murder of her abusive husband, that also raised tremendous awareness among the Asian communities and Indian communities in England. In order to promote holistic approach for prevention as well as intervention, the deficiency in the program designed for men needs to be addressed, and we have to have a preventive measures as well as the curative measures, the long-term measures, and to achieve this, there must be introduction of gender and human rights in curricula of schools, universities, professional colleges, and other training programs, other training colleges, B.Ed colleges. Along with this, there must be recognition and commitment to principle of free and compulsory primary and secondary education of girls, in which that we should not put up anyay karna bhi bura hai. To perpetrate violence is bad, and to put up with the violence is also bad. And that's why you can see the one-stop crisis center model, which came up in Bombay. Andhra Pradesh also has one-stop crisis centers throughout the state. They are community-based centers. They work in collaboration with TISS Hyderabad. Some of the educational material which is brought by the women's organization that we can't remain silent, and in how it impacts domestic violence, impacts children. The children also become violent. They learn the violent behavior. Children become masochists. They hurt themselves. They feel shame and guilt. They feel depressed. They feel anxiety, and also they perform badly in the wherever there is domestic violence. It impacts children extremely negatively. And that's why the posters which are created by the women's organizations like Swayam in Kolkata, Majlis in Mumbai, what we need is our community should become a Shanti Sthal. If you talk about the world peace, the peace begins from home. That is the main slogan. And this is my last thing, that we can fight against domestic violence if we are together, and both men and women have a responsibility. Men of quality always respect women's equality, and if you believe in women's equality, learn to negotiate. Don't use your hand, use your tongue. Conversation and discussion is the best way of peacemaking, peace building, and peaceful resolution of a problem, not the violence. I have referred to these 6 very important documents which came out as a rapid assessment study of last 2 years of corona-based pandemic, and how they all grappled with the shadow pandemic of violence. You can all these 6 reports are available online. I have also shared the link of these reports by Akshara, which works in Bombay, along with the police, One Future Collective, which did a massive study on the kind of support provided to the survivor. Sahaj and Sehat. Sahaj is in Baroda, Sehat is in Mumbai, and more than 20 organizations came together under the banner of breakthrough and came up with the infograms. And also there are individual researchers who have done the study, very extensive study, what happened during the pandemic and the shadow pandemic of domestic violence, what kind of civilian citizens' responses were there. Thank you for giving me opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important topic of domestic violence in our society. And I commend and I congratulate the college, Women's College, for taking up such an important issue, and also National Commission for Women. To be congratulated. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving the insight on abusive relationships in family and industry. Now I request time for this session.
Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like tapping the present and not hoping. Good afternoon, I'm Abhika Hamid of the Institute of Final Year. I would like to take a moment to express my profound gratitude to our resource person, Prof Vibhuti Patel, for speaking on identification of abusive relationships in families and legal safeguards. Ma'am, your speech gave us insight into the things for abuse in and around, not just physical abuse, but mental abuse as well. It was really encouraging to listen about the stigma, the social construct, the consequences, and the repercussions of the abuse and the abuser. Thank you, ma'am, for spreading the word about great organization working tirelessly against gender-based violence. You elucidated on the numerous legal actions we can take to reach out to the victim and find justice. Your presentation was detailed, well thought of, and easy to comprehend. Today, you gave us both the vision and the tools to change the world around us for better. There was so much to unpack in this session that I could go on and on. But needless to say, this has been an enlightening session. I hope they put ma'am's lessons to good use and work towards the bright future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for the audience patiently listening. Let us break for the tea for 10 minutes after 10 seconds. Okay.